Hi, it's Claire and welcome to Need or Say More. Today I'm going to show you how to do a black felt seam. I'm going to show you first of all on a plain white fabric with navy thread, so it'll show the technique really easily. Then I'm going to show you how to do it in a denim, which is less easy to see but will help you understand right and wrong sides and how it all comes together. So flat felt seams are primarily found on jeans, and this is because it adds strength and durability to the seam and extends the lifespan of the garment. So you can see this is a pair of jeans here. From the outside, the raw edges are completely encased in the jeans, and then when you turn it over, the raw edges are encased in that, so it gives a really durable finish. Let's get started. So I'm going to show you on the plain fabric first of all. So you want to put it wrong side spacing, and we're going to sew it together with a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance, and we're going to back stitch each end. That is our 1.5 centimetre seam, back stitched, wrong side spacing. This is the flat felt seam on the plain cotton. So I'm going to start by pressing the seam open to begin with. Then I'm going to fold both raw edges back on themselves towards this seam line. Like that. So that's the full seam allowance, and then I've just folded it back on itself in half. Now the right hand side here, I'm going to trim along that folded line. So I've got one of the seam allowances is folded back on itself, on the other I've trimmed this folded line. Then we're going to take the shorter seam allowance and we're going to fold it inside the longer one, and then fold it back on itself and give it a press so that all the raw edges are encased within this fold. And then I'm going to go ahead and just top stitch this on the sewing machine. When I'm top stitching the flat felt seam, I need to sew fairly close to this folded edge, otherwise there's the danger that the raw edge will peek out. So find a spot to line up on the fabric with a part on your presser foot. So I'm going to match up this folded edge with the notch in the middle of my presser foot. And then I'm just going to move my needle over slightly to allow me to get really close. I'm going to back stitch and then sew all the way down. Give it a little trim. There we have it, our flat felt seam. So this is our original seam line, this is our top stitching line, and all the raw edges are encased within that seam. I'm now going to show you how to do the flat felled seam on the denim fabric. So this has a more obvious right and wrong side. So if I hold it up, right and wrong side. So we're going to put it wrong side spacing. And just like we did before, we're going to sew a 1.5 centimetre seam and back stitch at either end. There we go. So the next step is to trim and press the seam. Here is my flat felled seam in the denim. So I'm going to go ahead and start by pressing the seam open. And then I'm going to press the two raw edges in towards my seam line. So I'm folding them in half back towards the seam line. And then repeat on the opposite side. And then on the right hand side, I'm going to cut along that folded edge. It's always good to check that you're not going through both layers. Now I'm going to encase that cut edge inside the folded edge. So I'm going to take the edge that I just cut, fold it inside the folded edge, and then I'm going to fold it back on itself and press. So all the raw edges are encased within this fold. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch that on the sewing machine. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch all the way down this folded edge, making sure that I sew nice and close to the edge to catch the folded edge. So I'm lining up the folded edge with the notch in the middle of my presser foot, and then I've moved my needle over slightly. Back stitch at the top and bottom. Just trim off the loose threads. And there we have it. So that's our flat felled seam. So we've got a twin line of stitching on the front, which is holding down that folded edge, and all the raw edges are encased inside.